Right, so Paul, it's the Super League Grand Final at Old Trafford on Saturday night. First of all, are you excited for the clash?
Oh, can't wait, mate. I don't think the game could have worked out any better. It's first v second. The two best teams, throughout the Super League season, and what a final it's set to be.
Absolutely, and obviously it's returning to Old Trafford this year after last season's was held at Hull City's KCOM Stadium. That in itself's a massive bonus because, it's a showpiece ground, or venue, should I say.
Yeah, it is. I mean, since the grand final went to Old Trafford since I think '97, it's been the highlight of the rugby league calendar, every year. And obviously last year was different, through COVID, and the game got moved to one of the rugby league grounds, obviously with no crowd being allowed in, which made sense financially, but just so good to see it back at its spiritual home. And Old Trafford's such a great venue, and hopefully a big crowd tomorrow. Looking forward to a great game.
Yeah, it's Peter Spencer here from Betfred. So I wanted to mention to you that the odds are St Helens win at 2-5, so they're odds on. Catalans 13-5. But these odds could change when we're closer to the kick-off time, which is in less than 24 hours from now, if Sam Tompkins actually takes to the field. What influence do you think he'll have on this game?
Yeah, Sam's massive for Catalan. He's their best player. I mean, he's just been voted obviously the Man of Steel, the best player in Super League this year. So what he brings to his individual team is phenomenal. He's an outstanding player. Sam's won the Man of Steel now twice and 9 years apart. So it just shows his consistency, throughout his career. And I honestly think he's probably not. I mean, he's an outstanding athlete, and his footwork and his agility probably not as good as it was when he first come through, but I think his game's better now. I think his game management, his leadership of his team and his players, and I just think he's invaluable to Catalan. Don't worry about Sam Tompkins. He'll be playing 100%. He will be playing. So I think what the odds have been based on whether Sam playing or not. If they are judged on him playing, they will remain the same, because Sam Tompkins will be out on that field. Whether he'll be fit or not is the $1 million question, and whether he'll last and what impact it can have, with his own running game. But Sam Tompkins will be out there because he's very much like Sean O'Loughlin was at Wigan. The back end of his career. I think just his presence on the field, brings a lot to his team.
Well, this is professional sport at highest level, the elite level, in fact, and the St Helens coach and the players will be looking towards Tompkins and wondering, is he going to last, and do we play on him because he's full-back, that key position? Do you think they'll hoof it to him and test him early on? And who do you think 100%. Who do you think he'll take his place if he does have to go off through injury?
Yeah. Well, I think in regards to taking his place, Catalan are very, very lucky that they've got a guy on the bench who's probably a bit unfortunate not to start, Archie Morg. He's been outstanding this year for Catalan. It just happens that he's against, in the position with the best player in Super League, and probably why he's not been in the starting 13 week after week. But if Sam Tompkins, had to go off injured, Arthur Morg is an outstanding young player, and will certainly cause the Saints defence a lot of problems. But what they will lack is Sam's his presence and his leadership out there, and his game management. He plays very much on the ball. He's played a lot of his career at half-back, so he knows how to run a team as well, and a great astute kicking game. So I think that'd be a massive loss to the Catalan Dragons. But you expect Sam Tompkins to be out there, and I don't think he'd put himself out there unless he was confident that he would get through the game.
What other players do you think will play a key influence in the game tomorrow?
Both teams are littered with star players. There's obviously an obvious talking point with Lachlan Coote. It's his last game, and Kevin Nagama's for St Helens, and also James Maloney's for Catalan, who certainly Coote and Maloney are key influences. They're key indicators for both teams. They'll be on the ball as much as anybody, and obviously there's the emotional side of it of wanting to go out on a grand final win with your last game for your club. So I think they're two key players also in the game.
I know that you suspect or you believe that Saints will win. We'll come to your predictions later. But if they do win, that'll be 3 times on the bounce. Catalans have never won the Betfred Grand Final before. Do you think that the neutral fans will side behind Catalans because they're not going to get that many fans over, are they, for this final? The latest projection is about 3,000. So you can imagine any Wigan, Warrington, Leeds and the rest of them. Do you think they'll start siding with Catalans? Will that make a difference?
Pete, you only have to look on social media, mate. It's St Helens against the world. It's and you expect that, and I think if it was Catalans against Wigan, Catalans against Warrington, Catalans against Leeds, all the other team, certainly them top clubs where the rivalry is fierce. All taken in the right spirit, but they will be, behind Catalan. I think we've seen that at Magic Weekend when obviously Catalans pulled that miraculous comeback on Saints. The full crowd, because obviously Magic, you've got fans from every club there, and it was like a Catalan home game. Coming into that game when they were pulling back.
Yeah, talking about that game, the Magic Weekend, that was quite extraordinary. It's gone down in history, that, because St Helens were about 18 points ahead, I understand, and then Catalans just pulled back, and everyone was thinking, they'll never get back into this, and then they did, and they got the golden point, didn't they? What effect will that have on the St Helens psyche going into the game?
No, I don't think. I think because 75 minutes in that game, Saints were clearly the best side. Absolutely dominant all the way through. What they did, they just switched off the last 5 minutes. 75 minutes gone in the game, and the 30 points to 12 up, which, I'd love to have seen the odds that Betfred to give out for that one. For Catalan to win the game, because
that is just 200 to 1 or 1,000 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, fair play to Catalan. They kept playing. They pulled 3 tries back in 5 minutes to take it to 30 all and into golden point, and then it's anybody's game, and they probably had momentum then. And James Maloney, he's won 2 NRL Grand Finals. He's a big game player. He stepped up and got them the win. But I think Saints will look more at the first 75 minutes for that, on how they were so dominant in that game, and look at the things they did good there, rather than the lapse in concentration, really, because I think that's all it was in that last 5 minutes.
Now, you named a few players earlier that are making the final appearances tomorrow. Just how big a factor is that emotional side during the game? Do you think it will influence the game in any way?
I think it's an emotion going into the game, and certainly after, when players are either celebrating or commiserating. I think once game kicks off, players are it's a normal game. You're in the zone. You don't really... You play what's in front of you. You don't really, bother about where you're playing or the crowd. Or obviously, hopefully there's be a great atmosphere there. But as players, you're there and you go through the process of what you're there to do. But I think in the build-up, and again, that can work for you or against you. The emotion can absolutely drain players, and that's a big one for Catalan. I think they've never been in a grand final as well, and is that pressure cooker of being at Old Trafford, and it could spur them on. It could wipe the legs. So that's another thing to see when obviously the game kicks off. When
you compare the two sides, Paul, and I often do this, as you know, if you line them up against each other on a piece of paper, how many of those Catalan Dragons players would actually get in the St Helens team? There's not very many, There's 4 or 5 who would actually get into the St Helens side, because St Helens is just a team of absolute superstars from 1 to 13.
Yeah, There is no weak links in the Saints side, and I think that's been the strength throughout. And again, over the last 3 years, and you look at the spine of the team. Coot, Lomax, Roby, Knowles at 13. All players on the absolute pinnacle of the game. Then you've got Alex Walmsley in the middle. The big fellas. You've got Mark Percival. For Saints, the backfield. Coot, Grace, Makinson, Percival and Nagama, the way they bring the ball back, they must make the job so much easier for the Saints pack, and it's like a juggernaut when it gets going, and it's difficult to stop, and I think that's where they've blown teams away. But when they get opportunity and they get on that front foot, the ability to to play rugby and score points, but also back that up with a. I know Christian Wolf is very, very defence minded. So when you've got that ability to score points and attack like that, but then also back that up with such a solid defence, it's difficult for teams to beat St Helens. And I think you look at the team, and Catalan have got some great players as well. But again, I think there's very few that you'd swap if you were a Saints coach.
They do seem to have a fair few ex-Wigan players in the Catalans team. I was looking at some of the profiles of some of the Catalans players, and that could have a bearing because there is this huge rivalry between St Helens and Wigan, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I mean, some of these players are, it's a long time since they played at Wigan, but they are Wigan lads. Tom Davis, both Tompkins brothers, Mickey McAlorum, who were, a big part of their careers have been playing at Wigan against St Helens in the derby match, and have grown that kind of, taken in the right term, hatred of St Helens and that rivalry. So no doubt this is a game that they want to win, but they want to win it anyway. It's the first French side to play in a grand final and represent their country, and I just think it's a massive game for Catalan. But as you say, they've never been in this position, and let's see how they handle it.
Yeah, the story of Catalans is quite extraordinary. They haven't been in existence that long, and they've been able to entice some very, very decent players over there, Sam Tompkins being one of them. Can you tell us about how brave it would have been for the players to have moved to south of France and help build this club up there? And the history of rugby league and rugby union goes back to the times of the Second World War, doesn't it? When the Nazis tried to stop rugby league being played.
Yeah, it does, and it's a big move for a lot of them players. Obviously, moving to a different country with a different language. There's a piece on Sam Tompkins at the moment what Super League have just put out online, and it's about Sam and his move and building a house and what have you in the south of France, and how he's bought into the culture, because it is a completely different culture change. But what I love about what Catalan did, when they first come into existence, the Catalan, the home-based French players weren't up to the standard of Super League. But what they've done, and everyone spoke about, they're a team full of Australians who've come over and they want a holiday, and why a Catalan in Super League? But they've invested into the French players, and they've got a lot of passionate French players in this side now, and I think they've done a remarkable job. And then you look at Toulouse as well. Hopefully for me, they'll qualify in the £1 million game and be in Super League as well, and we can have a French derby. I just think that the game's very, very strong in France at the moment, and for these players to commit to going down there and investing into that, I think has been fantastic for the game. And it's great to see Catalan. They've won the League Leader Shield. Now they're in the grand final. They won the Challenge Cup a few years back. I think it's been a big success, and I've got to give massive raps to Bernard Gauche, who's the chairman of the Catalan Dragons, just for his commitment and his investment. I'm sure he's spent a few quid in sticking by the players in the club, and I think he's getting his just rewards.
Like you said then, rugby league, really big in France now. Can you see it expanding to any other countries, and do you think that would be a good thing for the sport, say if it did expand globally?
Yeah, I mean, we need to expand globally, don't we? We know that. We know the games, has got to break out of this so-called, a lot of people perceive, because at the top level, it's mainly down the M62 corridor, but it's not, a grassroots and community game is spread all over the country and growing, at a good rate. But at the top end, for maximum investment and for broadcasting deals and commercially, we need to expand. I thought I was gutted to see what happened with the Toronto Wolfpack. Yeah, they didn't do everything right, and it was early days. But I think what they brought was that interest, and it would have been good investment from further afield, and people are going to want to. If they're going to spend a lot of money investing in rugby league, they want it, internationally and nationwide, certainly. So we need to expand. We know that, and no doubt, that there will be, future plans of I think there's going to be a significant revamp of the sport over the next few years.
Would part of expanding the game be moving it from Sky Sports to terrestrial TV? I mean, since I've been watching rugby league, I used to watch it with my dad, it's always been on Sky. Do you think it would be better for the game if it was to be broadcast, say, on the BBC or ITV, where it'd get more exposure?
Terrestrial TV is good. Obviously, there's more people see it. But Sky have obviously invested a lot into the sport. You know, we were very lucky. I was playing the first year that Sky come into Super League, and we all went full time. And I think that the Sky coverage is fantastic. But unfortunately, it comes down to investment, doesn't it? And what we can do as a sport, you know, with how much money we've got to play with, and whatever the best broadcasting deal in regards to how many people see the sport, and obviously the investment into it is you know, it's got to be the right decision. But you know, I've got to give raps to Sky. I think they have been tremendous, and again, it's when games are going to get aired to you know, for the most people to buy into rugby league. So. Yeah, we'll wait and see, but you know, as I said, I'm sure there's got to be changes, and I think there will be changes in the next few years.
And Betfred have also played a massive part in the sport's rise, and they've just renewed the contract for another 2 years. How important will that be to the sport's success?
Yeah, massive. You know, I've been a good friend of Betfred for, you know, since before, you know, they got involved in Super League. You know, done quite a bit of work with them in regards to the rugby tipstering and what have you, and got a lot of friends at Betfred, and there's just a fantastic organisation. You know, not only just backing the sport and investing money into the sport, but they've immersed themselves into it, and they've really been proactive. You know, not reactive, or you know, not really followed up their investment and just put the money in. They've actually promoted from within, and you know, they've absolutely, you know, it's a real good group of people that have, you know, really really well thought of now within the rugby league community. You know, like obviously comes from Fred at the top, and Mark and Steve and Peter and you know, Lewis and all them guys, and Matt. They've really bought into our game, and you know, it's great to see that they've extended that for at least another 2 years, and I'm sure it will go way beyond that.
Right, well, thanks for that. Much appreciated, your complimentary remarks there, Paul. Can we talk about who you think will score the first try? And I could tell you that Betfred have Regan Grace at 8-1 to score the first try. That shouldn't surprise anyone. The speed of this fella's extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. He's a born finisher, and I've written Regan down here. I know it's an obvious choice, and it's an easy choice, but you know, Saints love to play to that left edge with Matt Percival and Johnny Lomax, and it's Regan is just a born finisher. You know, when you've got that pace, I mean, you see his first try against Leeds. He scored the first try in the semi-final against Leeds, and he only needs a little bit of room, and he's gone. It was a great finish there, and I've actually tipped him for the first try in the grand final, because usually defences are pretty tight, and I know the big fellas up the middle are going to be wanting to whack each other. So you know, when that flare comes in and there's a bit of room, you know, you expect people like Regan or Tommy Makinson.
Tommy Makinson's he's 9-1 to score the first try, his second favourite, and Jack Wellsby 11-1 with Betfred. Now he was here last year, wasn't he?
He was, yeah. I mean, what a try! I don't think he'll ever score as an important a try as he scored in the last second of the grand final last year. You know, and you know, completely just made him a superstar within St Helens there and then. But I think Jack will be coming off the bench anyway on soon, so I should imagine there'll be points on the board before Jack gets on the field. But Catalan have got some try scorers. You look at Fouid Yah, you look at Tom Davis, who's had another exceptional year. You know, he's in the England setup, and you know, they're the best two teams for a reason, and they're capable of scoring points. And you know, it's going to be a tight game. I believe that Saints Bet best against Catalan's best, Saints win. So I'm going to go on that basis that it's a final. They're going to bring their A games, but Saints is better than Catalan.
Well, you have said that in your column in the St Helens Star, and also on Betfred website and other channels, and you are going for a St Helens 10-point win, 10 points or more victory. So are you sticking with that, even with the news that Tompkins is now much more likely to start?
Yeah, Peter, I give that prediction when I knew Sam Tompkins was playing. I know him very, very well. He's a good friend of mine. He was never missing this game. So yeah, I think Saints are always capable of scoring points. Saints will always score points, but I think what they can do, they can match it with their defence as well. So I expect a tough game, but I think as the game opens up, that Saints could score a few points and defend Catalan away.
Who do you think will be man of the match?
It's a tough call, isn't it? It's for me. I think if Saints are to be at the best, I think Lachlan Coote has a massive game and goes out as a grand final winner and the Harry Sunderland Award winner for man of the match, because he's been outstanding this year, and as I say, linking that backfield, but then also what he gives on attack as well. I just think is an outstanding player, and I'll go for Lachlan Coote as Harry Sunderland.
Yeah, that was an unusual decision that Lachlan Coote won't be at St Helens next season, because he's not retiring, is he? He's just moving on. Why do you think that's come about?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of everything. I think there's issues obviously with COVID, and obviously the financial side of it. I mean, Lachlan's is a marquee player, but also make no bones about it, Saints have got to invest into Jack Wellesby, certainly to reward him for what he's done so far, and Jack Wellesby to improve it. He needs to play as well, and is it that time that Lachlan obviously is at the back end of his career with his age, that they need to get Jack Wellesby out there on the field, and fullback for me is his position. So you can do that. You can invest in Jack, where you can, they want to keep him for the next 10 years. Unfortunately, it means losing Lachlan, but in regards to Lachlan as well, he's got a better deal. He's got an extra year. Saints offered him a 1-year extension. He's got a 2-year deal at Hull KR. It's a club who. Probably an exciting time for Hull KR. They've had the best year yet in Super League, and they've signed some good players for next year. And for Lachlan, it's the back end of his career. That extra year makes hell of a difference. So it's going to be a big loss to Saints. But as I say, you're going to have young Jack Wellesby starting off at number 1 next year. One
player who isn't going anywhere, of course, is James Roby. I mean, what a servant to rugby league he is. He's arguably the most significant player, or the best player in rugby league to emerge over the last sort of 10-15 years. I mean, his longevity is unbelievable, isn't it?
It is. James is a phenomenal athlete and a phenomenal player. Just to play the way he plays the game, both on attack and defence, to do that for what is coming up to his 20th year, it's phenomenal. He's signed another year for next year, which he said will be his last, and he's already pulled time on his international career. But what a servant to not only to St Helens but to rugby league in general, and will be one of the all-time greats.
Brilliant stuff. Well, it's been great speaking to you, Paul. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks for your opinions ahead of the game, and hopefully it will live up to expectations.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on, and as I say, looking forward to a great game. We've got the two best teams, and let battle commence.